Hey everyone, it's episode 151 of Bucks UK TV. Scott and Stuart are with me. Now, this has got to be one of the better podcasts to be coming on and talking about what's going on, as everything seems to be on fire. Scott, trip to the West Coast, the Bucks did all right, didn't they?
They certainly did, yeah. I think it was a game we thought was going to be really quite tight. I think we thought it was going to be a close run thing, and probably the toughest, well, not probably, definitely the toughest game of the ones left to secure playoff football. But certainly they came out in the second half and just blew the Chargers away, and in the end, we had nothing to be concerned about.
It was rather good, but I guess, yeah, Stuart, that second quarter, I'll be honest, there were some people on the forum. The boo birds got a little bit the better of a few of us. I won't name people. Obviously, I still held faith. Of course, I knew it was going to come good.
No, I mean I have to admit I was concerned at one point in that second quarter. They looked like they were flying a bit, and I was worried that they were going to just turn it on, and we were not looking good. I think there was a very big Levante David sack, which saved a probable touchdown, because they looked like they were marching on. And then when they got the touchdown, it was a concern that they were going to um, just score a lot of points. But we didn't concede another point after that point.
It was
I think
incredible.
it was pretty much bang on halfway through the second quarter, and they didn't get another point.
So
We
yeah,
were
so it's a
just
good
on
point. So
fire.
Scott, let's start talking about the Bucks defense then, because I think that was incredible. This was obviously this was a high-powered offense. It was the number one ranked defense. The Chargers, they were really really good team. And I think from the Bucks defense, it felt like we were a little bit Blue Peter, we were a bit sort of sticky back plastic, holding the secondary together. But it felt like, I mean, on the defense, kind of, what do you think was the key to the Bucks' success?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that has to be mentioned, just how many injuries we've had for the season on defense. So I think, yeah, what they were able to do was really, really impressive. I don't know quite what the secret is to why sometimes we can play like that and then other times it can be so poor. I mean, I think there was certainly some times early on where the tackling left a lot to be desired, but they came out in the second half, but it was just totally different. I think it starts with Villa up front, and then obviously David, who was excellent as well. But I just think, all in all, we just played with. I don't know. Sometimes we just seem to not really have the right amount of aggression. We just kind of drift in certain games. But I think they were all just on it, and right from the word go in the second half, they were just at it.
I think that's a really good point. The difference between the first half and the second half. And you mentioned about, the people up front, the linebackers. Stuart, kind of, on the one hand, up front, it felt like there was some pressure, but not all the time. It was a bit variable. And on the back end, it felt like, obviously, any time you pick off Herbert, you're doing well, it would seem these days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we got a couple of interceptions. We got we forced a fumble. We just seemed to be putting pressure on him all the time, especially in the second half, and he just wasn't getting any rhythm going. I mean, it was enjoyable and relaxing to watch for a change.
Yeah. And in terms of your
It,
defensive man of the match, who would you give? We obviously with the Bucks on the floor and the Bucks UK, we're voting for our game ball winner. It seems to be a bit of a toss up at the moment between Mike Evans and Levante David, but kind of obviously on the defensive side, I feel like there probably needs to be enough game balls to go around, don't there?
well, I mean, Dean had a really good game.
Mm.
JTS got in there with quite a good few tackles. And McCollum again got a good few tackles, but you can't come away from Levante. He was just brilliant. He always is. And he was leading the charge. Um, so you just can't come away from that. But I think it was an all-round good defensive play. I think everyone was getting involved. Everyone was making tackles. As I say, it was relaxing and enjoyable to watch.
Very rare. We should have had that next week for our Christmas present for everyone, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
want to be too stressed over the festive period. For me, I think the big takeaway was I think the contested balls. It felt like often we're either blitz heavy and in our zones, and sometimes receivers seem quite open. This time it felt like the distance between the secondary and the receivers seemed much tighter. There was potentially, was it pass interference? Was it not? There was that one call that you could argue probably went either way, but it just felt like the secondary were much more contesting rather, and I was really impressed with that.
Yeah.
So Scott, let's flip to the other side of the ball then and talk about the offense. And obviously, I've already mentioned Mike Evans. Do you think Mike's going to make 1,000 yards?
Well, I think after that performance there, you'd certainly think so, wouldn't you? I mean, he was just amazing last night. I think we're so used to it and so spoiled to have a player of that caliber. But yeah, he just seems to always be the one to 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 do it every time. And you think sometimes maybe you think, oh, it's probably not going to happen, but just seems to always pull it out. But I think, yeah, overall it was great. But I think for me, it's just, I mentioned it last night on the forum, but I just can't go over the running game this season. It's just so refreshing to see us running the ball with such, you know, variation, and to have so many backs that can come in and give us different options. I think it's been brilliant, and obviously Baker's just been fantastic. Although obviously there's still the odd interception, which is starting to creep in. But I think overall you can't really fault what they did last night.
I think it's a really good point. And let's talk about, let's unpack those things in turn. Let's talk about the running backs, then let's talk about Baker. I think, yes, Stuart then. So we've got a fantastic stable of running backs now, a real genuine three-headed beast. I
We do,
do
yeah.
feel that any other team, three of those backs could each be starting. You could make a case for rank our running backs for us.
Oh, that's a. I mean,
There's no easy questions on this podcast.
no, I mean, everyone just loves Bucky, and
Mm,
that's you know, without a doubt. He just gets in there and he weaves in and out, and he just makes. I mean, it was 117 yards yesterday.
mm.
I mean, so you can't, you know, double what White's got, no, nearly. So you would have to say, that Irvin's number one. I believe. And he gets the crowd going, and he makes a change. So up till the second quarter, he wasn't really involved, I don't
Mm,
believe.
mm.
And then the second half, he just came out, and it was just give it to Bucky, run, 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 and that was it, a 59-yard run he made.
Yeah.
That was just brilliant. I was watching it with some non-Bucs fans. They were Steelers and Bills fans, and they were praising Bucky, and they were saying, can't believe it's his first season. So, I think he's got to be number one. Whether or not he always starts over White, I don't know, because there is a place for White.
I think it's a really interesting
But
point
yeah,
because you could argue the fact that there was room for Bucky when he did come in, maybe was because they'd
mm,
been softened up a little bit by White and his sort of more heavy style of running, a bit more direct. Sometimes when he's more patient, he looks more threatening, but he's always happy to put his head down
yeah,
and go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I like White, and he does. I mean, last year, he was just giving it to White, and he was making a yard up the gut. And that was so painful. But he's how many touchdowns has he got this year?
Mm, mm.
There was a point yesterday where I was watching, and and the ball was being given to Bucky and Bucky and Bucky. We were so dominant over the Chargers that I started thinking selfishly, going, "Oh, White's in my fantasy football. Give it to White." You know, it was so relaxed and that. But even Tucker, he got nearly 20 yards yesterday.
Mm.
And considering where we were a year ago, for our third choice running back to get 20, nearly 20 yards, I don't even know if White was getting 20 yards a game.
I think
So
I think yeah, the impressive thing for me is I kind of feel like it feels like quite a complete offense now. Yeah, if Godwin could ever come back, and who knows, I don't know.
Yeah.
Last we heard about 3 weeks ago was that an outside shot of the playoffs. I personally don't think that's probably going to happen, but I have no inside knowledge. I mean, we can but hope. I don't want to get my hopes up, maybe. But Scott, this feels like a sort of, quite a complete offense. The number of points they're scoring, I haven't done the actual mathematics yet, but we must be getting close to being on track for a franchise record for point scoring. And you think about the prolific offense we had under Jameis Winston, the prolific offense we had under Tom Brady, and that's really quite high praise, I feel like. But I guess let's stick with that running game because, is this a complete running game? Because I feel like we ought to shout out to the O line as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're right to do that, but also to Cohen and the rest of the defensive
Mm,
coach,
mm.
because some of the plays they're drawing up are just really impressive. As you say, we've got guards and tackles pulling, getting up to the second level, and it's just all really, really great stuff to see. So it's making it easier for the backs. I mean, I think the whole thing just seems to be working so much better, and I think if you look at the way we're doing it, it's not just as you say the previous era of just running up the gut, and it's just so predictable. Every time they're doing different things, and I think you have to give the coaches credit first and foremost.
Yeah, we've already heard the rumblings about Curran and what that might happen and how high up he is on the head coaching shopping list of other teams. But obviously, Scott, the other player you mentioned, Baker. I mean, yeah, we were all a bit scared by that pick, but I think he had a fantastic game.
Yeah, I mean, he's just you love to see him because he just gives 110% every time. I love the runs where he starts laying it down and just getting right stuck in. It's what everybody wants to see. But yeah, I think some of the balls where he's been throwing this season have just been amazing, and he's right up there with the best quarterbacks in the league in terms of touchdowns and various other stats. I think yeah, you have to give him enormous credit, and I think you have to live with the interception sometimes a little bit because like for instance that one on was it third and 12 last night when he got the touchdown. They're the kind of ones where you have to have an element of risk and go for it to get the reward. So I think there is an element of that where he's going to throw the odd interception, but the important thing is it doesn't lead to further interceptions, and he doesn't have the kind of fear afterwards to start, hearing footsteps and things and start worrying about what's going on. He's just able to kind of move on from those ones. So I think as long as that continues, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I guess Stuart, we're blending into talking about the upcoming game, I guess, a little bit, but surely other teams don't want to play the Bucs at the moment.
No, not at all. When Baker's on fire, when Irvin's on fire, you've got Mike Evans, and even McMillan. The last few games, I feel like he's started to, you know, cement his position as
Mm.
wide receiver number two. He's got a few touchdowns. He's making plays. It's kind of, it's good. It's exciting. Um, so no, I don't think any teams will want to play, Baker and the Bucks. It's Baker's. It's exciting to watch. And I felt sorry for him yesterday because he made two amazing big runs and two of them were flagged. And it's just, it's great to see his passion. And I don't think teams will want to play us, especially
Mm.
at home.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's a good. The last 6 weeks have been good, even though some of the games have been closer than you wanted to. Not all of them are going to be like last night.
Yeah.
But it's grinding out the results and it's getting those wins, and it's a habit. Becomes a habit to win, and
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. And all we can ask is to be in charge of our own destiny, I think. And we've been fortunate, and we were on having a bit of a Twitter exchange this week with the Atlanta Falcons UK. We've been fortunate that our resurgence has been perfectly timed against the Falcons' collapse. And yeah, we've all been there when the Bucks have done something similar. So I'm not going to gloat too much. We know how much the merry-go-round goes up and goes down. But yeah, we feel like we're in our own destiny, and even though those plays from Baker come off the stat sheet, the teams know that he's done it, and the
Mm.
next play, they've got to spy him a little bit harder. They've got to commit an extra person in the box, or send an extra person rushing or something like that. So yeah, so Scott, let's come on to our next game then. There's no point talking about special teams. We found the secret to how to get the best punter, and that is don't have to punt. So
Yeah.
that's taken care of. Chase still knocks it through the upright. It's all good. Tucker, I thought, had a good return. End of special teams. There, done. Scott, the Cowboys. Now, I kind of feel like this is a bit of a wild card in a non-playoff sense team. I don't really know what to make of the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think you have to look at them, before the injury
Hmm.
to oh, names escape me now.
The QB, yeah,
And because now they've got Cooper Rush,
yeah.
and I think that the difference between him and Prescott have now came back to me. I think the difference between the two of them really affects the kind of the way that we view them, because obviously I think prior to that injury they were probably more competitive, whereas now it's kind of a different team. I mean, I watched some of the highlights from the Panthers game, and I think the Panthers probably made them look better than they are. I think obviously CD Lamb's the kind of key to the whole thing. I think if you keep him quiet, then the rest is. Yeah, they've got other good players there, but I think just the fact that they don't have Prescott at the moment just kind of limits what they're able to do somewhat. And I think obviously if our defense can play the way that they've just done, then I think it should be a comfortable victory. But again, we have to wait and see, and we know how good the Bucs are at making us wait.
I love your positivity and your optimism. I guess just to play devil's advocate, and I know there's lots of Cowboys UK fans out there that do the podcast. So don't come and I can give you Scott's address for the right amount of money. Kind of looking at, yeah, we've got Cooper Rush throwing it, and you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, but I do think Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert are very good receivers. And, if anyone's been blinking and woken up and thought, why is Ezekiel Elliott the backup running back? They've got Rico there as well. And, so I mean, Stuart, I do think this Cowboys team will be able to move the ball on the Bucs.
I, I think we've got to make sure we don't, take them too lightly, and
Mm.
because Dak's not playing, um, I don't think we can take them lightly. I think is it Trayvon Diggs is just been announced as out. I don't know if he played yesterday, but he was announced
Mm.
about half
Mm.
hour ago. I think that he's now out for 8 months.
Yikes.
So while that's not nice, it might help us. But yeah, we can't take them lightly. You can't. I mean, you can't take any team lightly. Some of these players are fighting for their futures and stuff. So you cannot take any of it lightly.
Agree,
And
agree.
I think we don't want to go in there too confident. And take the foot off the ball. Thinking, oh, we've done it now. We did the Chargers, which on paper was the toughest game. We haven't made the playoffs. We can still lose.
Mm. Mm.
So we've got to go in there. Each game is a playoff game now.
It is, yeah, and it kind of, although one part of the discussion we were having last week was, can the Bucks afford to lose one game? And I guess we were having that discussion, Scott, in
Yeah.
the context of, yikes, the Chargers are quite good. But I guess obviously, potentially we've got, the Cowboys, the Saints are never going to go easy on us in the last week of the
Yeah.
season, and as you said, Stuart, the Panthers, yeah, they're probably out of contention, but they're still, like I say, playing for their jobs, it's their careers, this is their
Yeah.
livelihood.
Yeah.
No one's going to roll over. As much as we're all thinking Madden or fantasy football, yeah, they just want to tank
Mm.
for the number
No.
one, make sure they get it over the Giants.
Mm.
That's not how the league works. So,
No.
Scott, kind of in terms of foot on the gas, looking at the game ahead of you, looking at the games down the road, rotation of players, keeping people healthy. Mikey wants his 1,000 yards, but he wasn't in on every play. He was still taking a breather. in a lineup where you'd argue, we need him out there more. So, how much do you focus on the Cowboys, and how much are you looking down the road?
Well, I mean, I think there's two different ways to look at it, isn't there? I'm always the one that prefers to just, keep playing as if, the score line or the standings are irrelevant, and you just keep going because I think it's a dangerous mindset to get back out of. Um, and we know that although you can't, at the moment you look at the Falcons and you think they're going to be struggling to win out, but you never know, and they've got good players. And obviously, if Cousins can, turn around this woeful run,
Hmm.
then you never know. So we have to be, keeping our eye on the one game at a time mentality and just keep it going. But I think we got a great prospect. I mean, the fact obviously the Packers winning last night certainly helped us in terms of potentially leapfrogging Seattle when it's all said and done. That kind of gives us something to concentrate on as well. But yeah, you just have to. You can't take anything for granted in this league, and as you say, everybody's trying to play for next season. We've got rivals that don't want to let us get that victory. So you have to you have to be on it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And Stuart, I'll come to you first, but I'll ask the same question to both of you in terms of our magic wand moment. It was really nice to see Todd Bowles like smiling, happy in the locker room. He was shouting,
Yeah.
and you could see the whole locker room was behind him, really enthused. They really kind of seemed to have gelled as a team. Given we've got a new offense and new younger players coming through. Kind of, if you are put yourself into Todd Bowles' shoes for the week ahead, magic wand or point of emphasis, what's the thing that you want to work on this week?
Um, Play for the second quarter. Um, Silly fouls. I thought a few silly fouls cost us a little bit of.
Yeah, I can't believe when the commentator said we're was it the fourth least penalised team? Really? Have we been watching the
Yeah,
same
it,
game?
it didn't. It
It
didn't
doesn't
feel
feel
like
that
it.
way, no.
No, I mean there was, there was about half a dozen flags. I think, I think we were so dominant in the second half that we didn't even notice.
Mm,
I
mm.
think that the flags in the first half felt worse because it was, the Chargers did look for a while to be really good. Um, so I think, yeah, I think it's just focus. Don't make silly mistakes. Don't lose to, you know, missed opportunities. Don't make silly mistakes to let the Cowboys in.
Mm, mm.
Stay focused because we've got the talent, we've got the team, they've got the belief. Um, just don't take it for granted. That'd be my magic wand. You know.
Cool. That's a good one. Scott, you can also be a magician. Where are you going to wave your magic wand?
For me, it's got to be the turnovers.
Yeah.
We have to watch that. I mean, particularly the fumble from White. That was, I mean, bordering on ridiculous in terms of how easily that happened. And obviously, we're talking about the interception as well. And I think I don't know how deliberate it was, whether the switch from White to Bucky had something to do with that or not, because obviously, that might have affected whether he was given as many opportunities after that as a kind of punishment as you will. But I think we have to just watch that because we know how costly that can be. And in the end, thanks to the defense, we weren't actually punished that heavily for both of them. But yeah, we just don't want to start that creeping in.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, how much should White be in the doghouse for that? Obviously, when Tucker had his fumble, we kind of didn't see him for the next, we'll say 15 games. Kind of obviously, it felt like that. He felt like he was in, but White was straight back out there. Clearly, the coaches have still got confidence in him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't the case that he was completely out of the
Hmm.
action after that, but yeah, you wonder whether it was a deliberate thing that they were going to use Bucky in the latter stages of the game more, or whether it was a case of that affected the number of reps he got. But I think, uh, yeah, and I'm not sure whether that's the best way of dealing with that kind of thing when it happens because the players already feel bad enough when they do it, and I think they've probably been punished enough at that point. But Yeah, all coaches do it slightly different, don't they?
Yeah. For me, my magic one moment, I think, and you both touched on this previously. I thought the O-line was stupendous. When you look at the pass rushing potential of this, of the Chargers D, they did so well to neutralize that. And quite often, with actually, we saw K Dot and downfield catching, but actually, they really mix things up. And Scott, you talked about, guards pulling and things and the protection sliding and stuff. I just thought they did so. So my magic one is to keep that emphasis on the O line and keeping Baker upright. I feel like some of those wobbly passes or some of that pick, or when it's just behind, it's not quite on target. I feel like maybe that's when there's pressure. I haven't looked at the stats because historically Baker's done really well under pressure. So I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback under pressure, but I just feel like we want to maximize our chances of keeping the ball and playing safe. I feel like it all starts up front with the O line really setting for that protection up. The O line I think is coming in leaps and bounds for me. It's possibly the biggest single area of improvement I think this season. We've always been good at pass protection, run blocking. We didn't tend to blow people off the line, and clearly you can see for the effectiveness of the run game. Again, you've got to give credit to the O line. So yeah, I'm not. It's not a fault fixing moment. It's probably a point of emphasis and reinforcement for me. So that only leaves us with putting your money where your mouth is and score prediction time. So Stuart, we'll start with you. The Cowboys. It's a tough venue. It's a tough team. We don't quite know, but we hope the momentum keeps going.
Yep, definitely. I'm going to go for 33-18 to the Bucs.
Oh, that's good. It's not often I'm more optimistic than someone. I'll come back to my score then. So, Scott, do you think it's a win as well?
Yeah, I think we'll get the job done, but I think in true Bucs style after a result like that, it's probably going to be a close one. I'm going to say 24-21.
Yeah, I think you're right. My head says regression to the mean. We can't keep doing that, but my heart knows keep going, keep going. I've written down 35-12, and not least because I've got the Dallas kicker in my fantasy team, so I need some good outputs. I'm in the semi-finals. I think I might be playing Ian. I'm not quite sure. So yeah, I need some good scores from my kicking output. So I'm gonna go 35-12. So obviously everyone's picking a Bucks win. We hope it's going to keep going. We're all going to be chanting Bucky. For those of us in the UK, of course, it's a night game, so that means starting in the wee hours. I don't know about you. I'm off work, so I've just got all the relatives coming around that day. So I'm on my best behaviour to not be grouchy. So I'll try and have a sleep beforehand. I'll try and have a sleep afterwards, but hopefully I won't be able to sleep because it will have been so exciting. But let us know in the chat, you guys, what you think the score prediction is going to be and your points of emphasis. Scott, thank you. Stuart, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. And as ever, go Bucks.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.